Well, hello, my parking money friends. We're so glad you joined us today, and we appreciate you following our channel. And, we try to provide some information down the road on collecting cars, which we've done for many years. And we bring on some guests, some friends of ours that can throw in their 2 cents. And we have thought of this hobby as a asset class for parking money, and hence the reason of naming the podcast that. And so it's worked out for us, and we want to give you some ideas and kind of be there for you if you ever have any questions. So if you will like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. And please comment and share, in the podcast here online, if you would. That would be very helpful to us, and it'll give us some ideas of kind of what you're thinking about and
what you want to talk about,
what you want to talk about and hear about. Yeah, exactly. I, of course, got my sidekick Brian Barr here with me today. One of the people that I know has a tremendous amount of knowledge. Been around cars his whole life, and been around all kinds of different aspects of it, from racing to IndyCar racing to
it's 5 o'clock somewhere, as you can see. I'm having a beer.
Exactly.
And that's a quote from a former employee of mine,
which
I worked for Jimmy Buffett. I did his licensing deal for the tequila margarita.
I don't think I even
years and years ago.
Nice.
He was a car dude.
Oh yeah. Oh really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He had Falcon. He had a V8 powered 280 SE Mercedes convertible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everybody knows him for airplanes though.
Right.
So, but anyway, we're off track already.
Yeah. And our guest today is my friend Chris Berger. We have he is known to all of us as Goose. Matt McSwain, who has been on the show here a few times, he works for Matt and works in Acme Aero with Matt, and Goose is a shock savant, building airplane shocks and race car shocks through the years. And Matt brought him on, and he's Matt's right hand guy on that whole business, and he's done well. And Goose has got into collecting some cars early on. Has bought some stuff. He has bought and sold. He still has some stuff. Still has the baddest ass little G20 GMC G10 EMC van with a
if you're gonna have a van, you got to have a wizard on the side of it.
Oh, you do.
Absolutely.
That's how I met you.
Yes.
I'm pouring over this van at a local brewery with a buddy of mine. I'm like, this thing is so cool. Who owns it?
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you doing at my van, man?
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, thanks for having me on, guys. This is I was joking with some people before. This is almost like a make-a-wish. You get a regular guy on today. I said I was like the kid that Trump made the Secret Service agent. I get to stand up and be excited today. No,
thank you for saying that. Yeah. Very nice compliment.
Well, it's
I don't know if it's true or not, but
as a listener of the show and getting to see things, it's fun to come on and kind of see how the sausage is made. So
yeah, Goose is one of our subscribers, and thank you so much for listening.
It helps out, and it's fun too. You see a show get started of getting a foothold, figuring out where you want to do, make the changes. I know you're looking for another co-host, and that's why I'm here today, is really try to bump the guy out of, so.
Yeah. Mike, what's this email?
HR will be here to walk you out the minute. We don't want to make a scene, so that's why we get it with the cameras rolling.
That recently happened to me. That's why I started my own business.
You're giving Brian a little PTSD. But.
So it's fun to be here. It's fun to hear and talk about this stuff with you guys, and it's aspirational of what we have and what you get to talk about, and then obviously hearing the stories from the people you come in from industry of racing times, and getting to. Long form shows are always great to really get to know somebody. 5 minutes of goofing off and having a good time, something. But we all know those couple stories that are soundbite stories, but really getting to hear a dive into where a car come from or how somebody got involved with it. It's fun to be involved in those kind of things.
Now, Goose, your background was in NASCAR, and that's how you got to be Matt. So tell us a little bit about how all that got started.
Quick on me came here in 97, was watching TNN. They had
and
there was the shows, the Saturday morning racing shows and all that stuff. And there was an ad for a school in Hickory that would teach you how to work on race cars.
Yeah.
And I had went to the University of Tennessee for a year, thought I wanted to be an engineer, and realized I really just wanted to party. Yeah. So, and I told my dad, you worked way too hard for the money for me to just blow it on this. And, and lounged around junior college and home just to not be a loser, to say, oh, I'm still going to school. You take a couple classes, you get everybody off your back. And this thing was $500 a semester to come over here. And I thought, this will get 3 hours away from home, far enough to get away from mom and dad, but you could still slink back if you had to, and never left. It was a great institution.
You still live at home now?
Yes. Yes. They put in this door. I can come and go as I please now. It's a doggy door, but it's a big one.
A big doggy door. Yeah.
So, that was my introduction to coming to North Carolina and getting into the racing industry. And what I really liked from it, from the, coming from enjoying sports and messing with stuff like any young guy, is the team aspect of it, and the people you get to make, and traveling honestly was a big thing, of getting to go see the country on somebody else's dime.
Yep.
And depending on where you're at, you're doing it in a window-licking 15-passenger van, or you get to work a little harder and you get to a team that's got a plane, and and it builds through there. But those early days of, I still got friends that my friend Billy Scott's a crew chief on the 45 car, and we still talk about, just those van days. You don't, it's like anything. You don't know the stuff that you really will look back fondly at when you're doing it. It just sucks when you're doing it. So same way, the cars you come across of what you're dreaming of and what you can actually afford, and the stuff that I'll just buy this junk and I'll work on it and I'll get it going. And, you guys got a couple more years than me, but I'm 46 now, and it's how many summers do I want to waste on this project?
Right.
Till I can really enjoy. I want to enjoy it today. That's why we're shopping for it.
Yeah. I find a lot of that with my customers now. They want to buy done. The project days are just like behind them. They want to get in the car and haul ass and have some fun.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is, one thing that we've talked about in this deal is you're better off to buy stuff that's done.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so hard to do something, number one, and you can buy it a whole lot cheaper than you can build it.
I've joked, listening to the shows, there would be it would be devastating to hear interviewing the people that built the cars as they're going across the line. You've talked about it with that Thunderbird and stuff, of you basically just bought the motor in it.
Yeah.
But to hear those shop stories and to put a highlight on that, maybe it's bad for the market if people start realizing that. But, the money that you lose on time and all that stuff,
Yeah.
And I get the build it, not bought it stuff too. But that's, that can be fun too. But you're going to pay pennies on the dollars, especially in the resto mod world.
Well, and I don't know if it's changed just because of inflation and everything, and what people are getting. Somebody like Goose's hourly rates, if he came in and built your shocks, by the time you pay for all that knowledge and that hourly rate, that's what adds up in a hurry. And the problem, what I've seen, and I know it was absolute with me, when I would restore something or build something, I'd come in every day and I'd be dreaming about it at night, about how much fun I'm gonna have with it, and I'd come in the next day and realize we hadn't got that much done since last Wednesday.
Right.
It'd be a little discouraging, but
it's even like we got the van done a couple weeks ago, so we're still doing some tuning and all, and
I love that thing.
Since you saw it, now it's got a 6-liter LS. We did 80mm works turbo.
What?
It's 2-stepped.
Whoa!
It's 2-step turbo G10.
That's
that shorty van with a wizard. It's my high school dream.
Here's where
definitely a shaggin' way.
Where you've made it in life. So Mike, he comes by last week. I said, "You want to go for a ride?" And he pauses for a second. He goes, "You know what? No, I don't think I do." And that's where everybody should try to be in life. And the point where you go, I got a lot of nice stuff and I want to enjoy it. And me being hung up in Lake Norman Hospital tonight because we barrel rolled this close.
And Goose, I really lay some specialness on that whole scenario. You're the first person I've ever told that. and not that there was anything wrong with the van. The van was outstanding.
I get it. So the tunability we got to do is it's great in Hoonigan mode right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in Hoonigan.
And we talk about things going up. Tires, when I put on it's got 29-inch Hoosiers on the back of it. And when I got them originally, they were like $250.
Yeah.
Couple weeks ago, I was like, man, I need to do new tires, but let's burn through these and let's have all our fun. And they were like $350. I go to get another set because now they're gone, and they're $480.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now that's where I say there's a tip jar on the two-step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you want to go for a ride after lunch? Pony up, baby.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So, but it's enjoyable. We talk about we're having some fun and we're drinking beers today. Of this is champagne and caviar is what you guys are talking about. So we brought the champagne of beer today, and that's where we're at today.
Sponsor us, please.
Yes and no. I mean, the I don't know, Mustangs and Cobras, that's still a lot of beer drinking right there.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, this is not, we got a couple Ferraris over here, but that's we're still in the beer drinking mode.
Well, again, I'm coming at a lot of stuff and a lot of conversations from listening more than talking. And one of your sponsors, we talk about sponsors, I'm in the Haggerty mode now.
Yeah.
Because now, what's the book on an 82 G10 van? $1,200, $1,400.
Yeah.
We're a couple years into a build. We got a lot of stuff. And the fact that they're able to, name your price, kind of what you want to value it as, is, I don't know that anybody else is really doing that or not, at least with the notoriety that they are.
Yeah, that's where they're so flexible, right? And they'll even insure you while you're building it. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Because it took way longer. What build doesn't? I mean, you're overpriced and you're, I'm thinking I'm hitting spring break 2 years ago, so, but it's good. You get a good shop that you can trust and you get that time, and then builds change too. I mean, you guys see a lot of auction stuff. Look at stuff that's dated so much that when they bought all the parts, it's got some Boyd Coddington wheels and it's billet everything, and then it's done 8 years later, and you're like, ugh, kind of like to start over.
Exactly.
And so
It's like guys that buy a motor to build a car around, and it's not 3 months, it's 3 years. And now GM's come out with the latest, or Ford or whomever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. There's the next gen of motor, and now you're behind the 8-ball.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and I went the working white trash version of it's a junkyard 6-liter. If I could start over again, GM's got that boosted 376. It's 50,000 mile warranty, up to 14 pounds of boost.
The character of the build, the junkyard, was an LQ motor or a junkyard LQ motor.
It came out of a rusted out plow truck from Ohio.
That's even better.
No kidding.
And that's
didn't sound like a rusted out plow truck, and you cranked it up on it the other day.
Good parts on stuff, and it's good parts beside junk parts. And we're here in NASCAR country, so there's cup radiators in it, and Brown and Miller does all the plumbing for race car stuff, did everything. So put the money where you're gonna do it, keep it. But it's a fun project.
All right, quick question. I know you do all you build. I'm gonna guess 70-80% of what.
Yeah, so I'm building the shock. So our business, where the day job is Acme Aero. So we build light sport suspension for experimental and certified aircraft.
Right.
Super Cubs for the people out there.
Yeah.
So we took basically racing technology from an industry that was stuck in Orville and Wilbur days. These Cubs, they were made in the late 30s, and they're still operating off bungee style suspension.
Yeah.
So bringing innovation of a real gas charged hydraulic shock with mechanical spring inside of it and a ton of safety.
And nobody was doing anything even close.
No, there was, especially in going, we did it for 10 years of making evolutions. Every build and everything you learn, you think you know what you're doing when you start with, and you look back and like, Jesus, I'm glad we ended up being successful, of all the things we learned. But and then the next step we made was getting into the certified market. So For the layman, if you've got a Cub and you're a hunter or a fisher and you're guiding people, or if you're working with this banner tow people,
Right.
You have to have a certified aircraft. So,
Right.
so that window, you guys talk about, who's wanting a Ferrari and I hear you talk a lot about windows shrinking down. And what
Yeah.
you have to do when you get in those small windows is you have to excel. You have to be the standout in a small market.
Right. Right.
So that's what we've attempted to do, and I think we're doing pretty well at it. So, yeah.
My question is, was that the Cub that landed on that helicopter pad in
Yeah,
Dubai?
so that was,
Did you build those shocks?
I built those shocks. And we
Now, let me tell you something. That is a hell of a business card for,
Right.
I mean, just to show that video, show that what happened there, and say
I did that.
he landed on my shock.
it's the second cool jump that I had. Travis Pastrana did that Nitro Circus movie.
Yeah.
And he jumped the school bus.
Yeah.
I built the shocks for that too. So that
Oh,
was,
no kidding.
Okay.
I joke, coming from, racing and off-road stuff, I've always enjoyed that this planes is just like off-road racing. The jumps are just a lot longer. You got to take off and you got to land. So, it's been a nice market to get into. One is a career, because in your 40s, I got to kind of reinvent the stuff you were working on. I
Right,
mean, the guy that's building transmissions out of high school and he's always building transmissions, there's a point where it gets mundane.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been super lucky coming from NASCAR stuff, and then the off-road world, and then I worked at a place where we did a lot of military stuff. I've got to interject into a lot of other people's lives,
Right.
and things that you wouldn't really get to do on a normal day.
And
So-
interject into a lot of other people's products, I
Sure,
imagine.
sure,
Right? Yeah.
and on the cheap. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I bought a ticket to the ride, but I didn't have to own the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this plane stuff is great, and you realize also, I mean, whether it's carpentry or whatever it is, the levels of success. When you think somebody that's really got it figured out, and then you come to another place and you see,
Yeah.
the other guy he was kind of
Yeah.
bottom end. So, I'm sure that you guys are in the circles where there are collections that are just not known about. They're
Oh, yeah.
private stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Amazes me every day, the stuff that people come across.
and God love those people, because you're going to know about it if I've got some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, and you say that, but when you get to a certain level, you don't really want to talk about too much. I mean, you open yourself up to so much liability and bad things that
when you got Haggerty on your side,
Yeah, I've been working with two clients
Mhm.
coming out of the season opener at IndyCar, both referrals out of that garage,
Mhm.
but both don't want to deal publicly with the sale of those cars and collections.
Yeah, right.
And they're high-end stuff. They're high net worth individuals. They got some really killer stuff coming soon at Alexandretta.
Mhm.
And we take care of that need. We also take care of the need. A buddy of ours just brought us the cleanest little California, absolutely original 37 Chevy, completely different side of the hobby. But he doesn't want to deal with the tire kickers and the knuckleheads.
Right.
So,
Yeah, right.
but, it's just, you never know where all these collections are happening.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Now it has to make you proud to see
Mm-hmm.
that plane land on that
yeah,
that helicopter pad.
it
Good
is
sakes.
neat. That's the fun side of that business. Probably half of our customers are in Alaska, far up north, and it's funny, those planes up there are like Chevy trucks. They're just workhorses.
Right, right.
And the ones that we get involved with where they're doing search and rescue missions up there. We've got a customer in Africa that's over like a preserve, and he's, like an armed poaching agent, there's another one over there that, basically just flies around this elephant reserve and makes sure that none of them get stuck in mud holes, or if they have a calf or something that they can get in. And,
Wow.
and so those are nice in anything, of sure, everything's fun and it's a toy, but when you see stuff that's actually doing good and doing something, but yeah, no, the Abu Dhabi thing was pretty nice. I make fun of Matt because he had the chance to go and he's like, I'm real busy this weekend. I'm like, doing what?
Right. Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, I tell you what amazes me about y'all's place is the stuff y'all built to dyno all this stuff. I mean, like that one drop that you had.
Sure. Yeah. So we had to do, for the FAA, imagine
Tell
levels
us
of
about
testing and, drop testing and run ups, and, you got to get the wheels spinning before you drop. And, we spent probably over 4 years just to convince the government that what we had been making was great.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about stifling innovation in any industry. We were lucky that we had been making this thing for 10 years, and been making these changes and making revolutions, and what we submitted to the government was what passed. We made no changes. We found nothing else through their extensive testing.
And that's for the certified stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's good that it's out there,
Mhm.
but at the same time, these things are fabric and, thin tooling and, it's like, what are we trying to do here, guys? But it's another thing that has been fun to get involved with. And I kind of hope to ride this one out for a while.
Yeah. I mean,
it's good times.
Success y'all are having. I mean, goodness sakes.
Yep. So what's new in your guys' world?
Well, I mean, what's new for me right now is that Shelby Cobra.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I'm really looking forward. I got to drive it last weekend. We went out to California and drove it. And, you guys that don't know, I traded some cars around, sold a bunch of stuff, and acquired a CSX 3131. It's a 1966 Shelby 427 Cobra, and the car came with an invite to Pebble Beach to show in a Cobra class the 60-year anniversary of the 427 Cobra.
It's a narrow hip car. Right?
Narrow hip car. It's one of 10, one of 33 built, one of 10 known to exist. And so it's a rare piece, and I mean, it's generational, and it's a
timeless car.
It's a timeless car, and so my wonderful, beautiful wife didn't have a word to say about it, and what I see in that, and what I truly enjoy about that, is her faith in me, of knowing that we've done pretty good on everything we've done, and I'm not going to without with all God will, and not make a really stupid mistake. And so, just finding something like that was really tough. So, and I know you're getting into representing a lot of cars.
Yeah. It's the I used to work in IndyCar and in NASCAR, and it was great to just get back down to the garage area. I left the company, great company, wonderful company. We just went our separate ways, and I started, I got in my own dealership with partner. Chris is a wonderful guy, and started up my old agency. And in one lap at the garage, these two, very nice collections are landing in my lap.
That business, you as a broker, that business is so suited for you, because you know so many people and know so much about cars. I've got another real good friend that does exactly what you're doing. And y'all are just, I mean, you're different age groups, which makes you
complementary,
because it makes you more of an expert in a different year range of cars.
Yeah. Well, we were out at Hot Rods and Hops too, and it's not just these collections are blow your mind, but when people come up to you. So I'm at Hot Rods and Hops, and I'm walking around, and a guy walks up and he goes, "Hey, you're Brian Barr." I'm like, "Yeah, it's nice to meet you." And you're not going to remember who I am. He's seen the podcast.
See, I would be worried about getting served at that point.
I usually am. So we're talking, because you're not going to remember the conversation. You called me, I called you a couple of years ago to talk about a Camaro, and you didn't have what I wanted where I was working at, but you knew where one was, and you switched me on to the guy. And I ended up buying the car and making all the right decisions. And thank you very much for your guidance, because if I hadn't, I would have not thought to buy that car.
Right.
So, I'm like, well, out of the blue, that's really nice.
Yeah.
And then, I picked a couple of consignments coming out of there. And in everyday stuff, like a really cool little 32 Roadster, full fender, not an expensive car.
Yeah.
But a cool car. you know, and that's the stuff you
Oh, yeah.
you don't have to spend a lot of money to have something cool.
Yeah.
So your Pebble Beach stuff, this is where I'm interested. I've never been to the Kentucky Derby.
Mhm.
I look at this as kind of the car Kentucky Derby. Is that
That's probably a pretty good analogy.
you've been to it obviously already?
Been to it twice, and it's funny because it dawned on me this morning. I have a real good friend down in Atlanta, Randy Jaffe, and I know Randy's watching because he watches all of our podcasts. But it just dawned on me this morning that when we go to Pebble Beach this year, that'll be the 10th anniversary of meeting him and my other good friend Mark Lambert.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I told him that, he's like, well, I got to be there now. And I'm like, well, yeah, you do.
How accessible is it for just a walk up and go see, like, just
You can buy-
off? I mean,
You can buy a ticket.
It's a $500 ticket to
Yep.
go walk on the grass and see the cars and let me tell you something, that's expensive, and it's way expensive for the average person. But I'm gonna tell you something, you'll see stuff there. Have you been to Pebble Beach?
4 times.
4 times. You'll see stuff there that you would have never, that you didn't even know existed.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a lot of times they'll have some anniversary type stuff. I mean, they had Porsche 917s, a whole line of them a few years back, had Ferrari GTOs, a whole line of them there, you know, practically everyone made. And that concourse has such a prominence that those kinds of things will show up.
It's car week, and I've been very fortunate. I've only had to pay for a ticket once. I've either weaseled my way in or done it on a media pass.
Right.
Because that's how bar works. So, but there's so much more stuff going out there. From the historics races are going on. There's the little car show in downtown Carmel, which is cool, which is all micro cars and small cars.
Yeah.
There's the Lemons Concours,
Yeah.
which is just a hoot because they're bribing the judges with food and cash, and you're like,
just riding down the street
is a car show.
in the middle of Monterey Car Week is a car show.
And I forget that little Mexican restaurant that's on your way out to the track. There's a breakfast point.
Sunday.
Yeah, there's a breakfast spot in it.
I can't
And on Thursday night, that place is just rocking. That's where I saw 10 years ago my very first Peterbilt rat rod truck. And ever since, I've wanted a Peterbilt rat rod truck.
Yeah.
Don't have it yet.
Let me say something, Goose. Now I wouldn't recommend driving it that far, but I'd put it on a trailer, and that damn van would be a hit.
It would. It would.
It would.
You park that in front of the Hog's Breath Inn.
I've
And
been to 23 states
Yeah.
so
Okay.
far. I mean, we've did 24-hour Daytona, went camp there,
Yeah.
been to Vermont, been to 2 Van Nationals, Minnesota. I mean, that was back when it was you know, just a mundane
van.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's good times. It's good getting out and using stuff that we've all probably had. The thing that you were super into, and then, you know, life moves on. You know, I still have, I still enjoy off-road stuff and Jeeps, and we've joked, there's a group of guys that I've been wheeling with that a couple of them don't even have Jeeps anymore. You know, it's the friends you make and stuff.
Yeah, it's the people.
And then, you know, you really don't need the thing that glued you to start with still around. So, you know, but I am always curious of somebody when I mean, you get it with Cobras or whatever it is of like, this is my thing. You know, you see a collection of like, I'm a Mopar guy or I'm a Ferrari guy.
Right.
And you always be like, man, have you ever tasted anything else other than what you've got here?
Right.
Well, I like to say this. I'm a recovering Porscheaholic. So I was a Porsche guy, right? I haven't had a Porsche in 15 years because I'm like, oh man, I need to get another Z car. And then, I shouldn't. I have had one Porsche. I had 9.5 turbo, but my God, a water cooled car, you know. But I had to shatter some of those things. And now I'm an AMG guy.
You can go the other way too. I'm friends with Todd Holbert, and you know, he gets, you know, somebody will say, hey, I found this of your dad's or whatever. He's like, it's a certain point where this is out of the market. You know, this is museum stuff now.
Right.
I appreciate you calling me, but you know, it's
Al Holbert was his dad.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Famous racing.
Famous race car driver. Yeah.
I was in Daytona once. So Todd now works for TRD, and so they were going to the 24 hours of Daytona, and I was going in the van. He says, man, we have messed up a splitter, and do you think you could haul it down? Otherwise, we're going to have to fly this thing. I'm like, yeah, throw it in the van. You know, oh yeah, it'd be a good ripping time. So go down. And I parked. Matt had took the motor home because he took both the Corvettes. They were doing the Spirit of 76.
And the Sebring.
Yep. So I go down and they're ripping those around the, what is it, like the 20 minutes before?
Yeah,
or
it's the
whatever
24 minutes
yes,
Daytona.
Yes. So that was fun seeing all that stuff. And then I wanted to having a couple pops, but I wanted to wake up in the middle of the night and go kind of do let's see what it is at 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning. So, it gets cold down there. And whoever's working at Mazda, I hope you're not listening today, but you could not sleep through that Mazda car. Everything else was just normal. And then here comes Satan ripping down the backstretch. And so, you're not getting a lot of sleep anyway. And go walk around, come back, go to bed. I wake up almost dead. Matt had got cold, fired up the generator on the motorhome, and the exhaust pipe is just dumping right into the van. So it's like, I don't know if it's beer headache, carbon monoxide headache, whatever. So I just moved the van over a couple. It's middle of the night and get up next morning, and I'm hanging out, talking with Todd a little bit. And I have parked behind Derek Bell's camper.
Okay.
And he comes out, I love it when obviously notable people introduce themselves. I mean, some politeness and all, but it's like, hey, I'm a little hungover. He's like, I'm Derek Bell. And
he's a pretty
I was
nice
like, no shit, so that was good times. Those are the stuff when you get cars and you start getting out and you start enjoying things that are surrounding them. Mm-hmm. That's always interesting. The Pebble Beaches or the Van Nationals and the Pebble Beach is two separate ends of the spectrum.
Oh yeah.
But
yes and no. Now, Monterey Car Week, there's so many crazy little things that go on.
Right.
Pebble Beach, that's a little far.
Well, Pebble Beach is the Derby.
Yeah.
But you still have there's still the Oaks. There's still other right. There's still, it's just a fun. There's so much stuff going on out there.
How long should you go out for? You do it a week.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can do 4 days, but a week.
If you're going to go.
Yeah. And it's going to take you a week to drive it. So, I mean,
challenge accepted.
Yeah.
It's got a turbo on
it. Well, I'm not going to ride in it.
We know that. I now see a vision of Jugs and Speed.
No,
I'm going with them. Mother Jugs and Speed and Cannonball Run. I'm going to dress like a wizard the whole time.
Yeah.
Jugs and Speed was Bill Cosby when he was an ambulance driver.
Yeah, with James.
Who was mother in that?
He was.
Was he mother?
I think he was Speed.
Yeah, I think he was Speed.
Or Roofy. I don't know which one he could have been.
Yeah, Jugs was Raquel Welch.
Yeah, right? Raquel Welch. Yeah. They had 8. They had that it was a Chevy or GMC ambulance, and it had 8 headlights, not a quad square headlight. 8 headlights, and that's about all I remember of that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's and that's one thing we talk about on here, of course, that you've obviously heard all of our podcasts, but just the social aspect of cars, just how much like all my friends are car guys, right. And all my and even Debbie, I mean, I love her like nothing in the world, and she is, she'll admit, it seems like all of our friends are car people. Mm-hmm. They kind of are.
They are.
I mean, we all have something in common.
I've seen in shopping stuff too of if you're getting into a new platform, whatever it is, that club aspect or kind of getting, it's the hard thing when you jump around industries. I can walk up on somebody and I don't know that they're Derek Bell.
Yeah.
Right. Of that, this could be the biggest, baddest guy in whatever thing it is. And then you don't want to look like an idiot, but at the same time, I think that's the hot ticket. If I was telling people, if you're getting into something, because a lot of times, people are shifting through collections and getting rid of the thing that you're going to find on Marketplace is a pile. And if you can just get in and you guys know, man, who you need to go talk to is so-and-so. He's got a cherry one that he's ready to get rid of. Yeah. That's the secrets into those finds.
Yeah.
And because we've all bought junk. I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and just like this Cobra I bought, it's going to be at Pebble Beach. So I wanted to really make sure that I'm not showing up out there and going to be embarrassed. So,
If you're embarrassed in that thing, then we got a hard road ahead of us.
we got some psychological issues.
Concourse judges can be brutal.
I know they can.
And I ain't telling the story.
Oh, you know.
But they can be, I was one. They can be brutal.
Brutal. And the thing about it is, I mean, this is the biggest concourse in the world, and there's only 4 cars in the class. I know where 2 of them are coming from. I know where the third one's coming from. I hadn't seen a car. And they're spectacular. I don't want to show up with anything that's less than spectacular. So what's been fun for me is going on the internet, finding a jack. Okay, the car came, it didn't have a spare, didn't have a jack, didn't have a few things in the trunk. So just finding a jack is like, it's like, the Holy Grail.
That's a tough internet search too.
Yeah.
You got to put some safe search in there.
I heard that like the screwdriver, like the Cobra screwdriver is like unobtainium.
Well, no, they are.
Oh, you can't?
I'm getting one, supposedly. Yeah, I'm getting one, and that Thor hammer. There's a hammer called a Thor hammer,
right,
to break the knockoffs off.
And you need probably a good one and one to actually use.
Yeah. But it's it's interesting, and I'm getting a little closer on a lot of stuff, but I got till August, so I should have it.
I'll be here before you know it.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. So I got on a kick where I was hell bent for a chopper. I was wanting a shovel head, long death trap. I wanted
death trap.
Yes, you know me and death trap.
A rigid.
What's your guys?
How the hell you're still alive, Goose? Is a miracle.
What's your guys' version of the thing?
Make sure we're not putting a posthumous thing on the bottom of the thing.
Had to have. This was every night I'm researching, had to get it. You got it, and we're super disappointed. Have you ever did that where you fell in love with something?
Yeah.
You love the idea.
Yeah. And I know there's something. I know I've been there, so I know there's something. But I'm just trying to think of what.
I can tell you what it is, and there'll be a lot of haters. That first gen CTSV I had.
We had an 04. It was a pile of poop.
Yeah, mine's a 5.
It wheel hopped its ass off.
I broke the diff in mine.
It had basically bleeder. You could drive from here to Charleston. My parents lived down there. Tire would go flat randomly. We drove it out of the showroom, and my wife had driven a stick. She said she was good. She had driven a work truck I had with the super low first. I didn't know that she wasn't super proficient.
Right.
It's her car, and she's like, "Well, you take it home." I'm like, no. This new Cadillac out of the showroom. This is mine.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving, and I look back, and I just see headlights, nothing. I'm like, hell yeah, she's ripping this thing. I don't know that she's back there just bucking it to death, but yeah, I mean, those were 400 horse.
Yeah.
6 speeds. In paper, they should have been awesome. They were smaller, but it was, I think you get cars, and I'm sure it happens with exotic stuff too, of technology's not quite there yet.
Oh, yeah.
You get an entertainment system or look at 2000s navigations.
Yeah.
I might as well just tape a map to the dash and be better off than that thing. So
the V was a great 7/10 car. Don't ever try and go 10/10 in it because it's going to disappoint you.
Yeah.
Cruise around town. It's fine. Mine sounded completely gnarly. People loved it, but
we almost died several times because you could get on the line and figure out the way to turn the DVD player on so it would keep playing while you're driving.
Yeah.
And we have a Tesla. We've got a Model 3 now. Love it. And there's the memes of first week of self-driving, you've got your hands on the wheel in the first month, and then you're kind of looking in the first year you fell asleep in the back seat, and that's how we were. You're driving up 26 and it's boring, and you're watching movies, and you're like, how many people we almost ran in the back of this thing? But so
my sister has one, and I'm like, so what do you think of it? She goes, the turn signals can sound like farts. And I'm like, so Suzanne, now you have to like and subscribe. I'm like, that's the only thing she can tell me about the car.
Sounds like farts.
Yeah, you can make it sound like farts.
Yeah, it's a thing. We haven't did that upgrade yet. Yes. So,
but you talk about some of the things that disappoint you too. Is sometimes you want to meet your heroes, and sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes. And I'm being a recovering Porscheaholic. And the holy grail of that is a speedster or a Pre-A car.
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped in it with these crazy expectations, and it was like wah wah wow. Still a beautiful car, but I was so out of context.
But it was so underpowered.
Right. And out of context from what I was, just driving. This is in the late 80s. I had just a regular old 911. And I was like, oh, man, I'm disappointed,
It's a souped up Volkswagen.
Yeah, kind of. And I hate to use that term. But
yeah, but that's what it was.
Yeah. But
I get it through coming up through cars in the 80s and 90s and stuff, your poster cars. And
yeah, there was no really good cars in the 80s at all.
Matt had that blue 308 and he's like, you can take it.
Oh, I remember that car.
Yeah.
With the sound system in it.
And I could only drive it with the targa off of it. And I grew up liking, Tom Selleck. So I'm like, buddy, I'm in.
This is it.
And he's like, don't drive it. You won't keep the memories that you have. This is class reunion stuff. Don't think about the old days. And I took that thing around the block and it was exactly that. Like, are you kidding me? Other than the gated shifter,
That's cool because it chank.
Yes. But so there's been some duds, but you get wins too. And
I tell you, the biggest surprising car in this whole building is that 430 Porsche with 3 pedals of gated shift.
The 360 Ferrari.
It's a 430.
Oh, the 430.
430. Oh, yeah. With a gated shifter, they're so rare. I mean, they made the car for 5 years, but they only made 125 coupe gated shifters and 135 spider gated shifters.
Pretty even.
Yeah, and I had that was when Ferrari invented the paddle shifts.
Okay.
In Formula One. And so that was the time that then they introduced the 430s. Well, every 430, the majority of them, the whole majority of all that whole production through 5 years was the paddle shift Ferrari. Well, I got one and I was so disappointed in it. I mean, it was terrible.
It was a single
clutch. So it took it all day to shift. Now I had a 458, which was a dual clutch.
Yeah, much better.
10 times better. But then I bought the 430 with the gated shifter and having that box, having that gated shifter. What a difference.
When you can get a paddle shifter on a Kia, it's kind of lost.
Yeah. It's just shifting the slush box, the CVT that has no gear.
Yeah.
So I think some of the stuff that surprised me.
And answer your question, that having that F1 in that car was probably the disappointment.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be completely disappointed the first time I drove a Model T. And I had a blast.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah, exactly. The pedals are screwed up. You got to do the timing, all this stuff. I figure this is going to be way over my head. I'm going to be miserable. And I was just grinning in the ear to ear.
Oh, no kidding.
In a Model T. Would I own one? I don't think so. But, I'd own a Model A, which is weird. I'd love to have a little stock Model A. It's no faster than a golf cart to, go coffee hopping in.
What do you guys think on as generations shift and collections lose favoritism through years or whatever it is? I mean, go back to brass era stuff and
hard.
It's a bummer when you see stuff go through that you're like, dude, that should be worth more than that is.
Yeah.
But the people that's not interested in it is just not interested.
What's that market gets so small that the value all of a sudden collapses out of it?
My formula or my equation for collector cars is let's take that 1969 Datsun 2000 right there.
The Black Roadster.
Yeah, the Black Roadster. Nothing special car. That one's resto modded, hauls ass. It's got a cool little later model motor in it. But what happens with that 1969 car is and not so much that car because it was a Japanese car, which may not have been the situation, but let's say that 70 GT500 right here. What happens with that car in 1970 is the 20-year-old who goes into the dealership and sees that car and starts slobbering because he wants it so bad, but he ain't got no money. And so, he can't give $3,500 for it in 1970, but 40 years later in 2010, he'll pay $150,000 for it.
And kicks himself that in 1990 he didn't pay $25.
But he didn't have no money. Right. So what happens is he has to go through about 40 years to establish himself, create a career, get to be really good at something, make a few good real estate investments, make a few good stock investments, and suddenly he can go pay $150,000 for that car. So, but what happens is I take that car, 1970, back it up 20 years, because that's the 20-year-old that walked into that car and saw it brand new. That guy was born in 1950.
Yep.
Okay. Right now he's 75 years old. Okay. Now the problem is he can't get in and out of that car now.
Right.
So there is a bit of a problem. So what's going to happen? I don't think maybe just because the name Shelby will help it a great deal. But if that was a 1970 Mustang, with the exception of possibly not being a resto mod, nobody's. It's an old car. It's a 70-year-old car, or a 50-year-old car. And so that group that wants it, that basically wants to buy it and put his wife that he's been married to for 32 years in the passenger seat, and on Friday night drive her down and get a cone of ice cream,
Right.
and come back and relive his youth. Because I've always said, as you get older, okay, and you acquire wealth and you make good decisions, and you start to have a good bit of money at whatever level.
Level.
Whatever level.
You don't have to be a millionaire, but you're comfortable and you're doing okay in life.
You can buy anything you want. You can buy cars, you can buy boats, you can buy airplanes, you can buy big, huge houses, you can buy anything you want. Can't buy one thing.
Youth.
Buy youth.
Yeah.
Okay. But that represents your youth that you and your 20-year-old girlfriend slobbered over in the dealership. And guess what? You can go get in that thing and go take her and get a cone of ice
That's
cream.
very interesting, because I'm 18 years older than you. In 2005, I bought a brand new Honda S2000 to commute in. It was a great, fun little car.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that car until now. I'm looking for some little fun thing to bomb around in.
Yeah.
An S2000 on the list 20 years later.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't have, 40 years ago, I had a beat up, rusted Triumph, right?
Right.
Bought the Honda, which is the best British sports car ever made, arguably maybe the Miata.
Yeah.
Right. And now 20 years I'm missing the car that I wanted, but where did I really want that car from? When I was 18.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm lucky. I've still got my first car, 78 Corvette. My dad was
Hell of a first car.
Hell of a first car.
He stuck with the idea of, same way as a lot of guys have, of, I wish I would have kept my first one and wanted the first one to be something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a lower end, this was in early 90s, so the thing was L48. It wasn't the original motor. It came from Ohio. A guy had let his daughter drive it to spring break in Florida.
Oh, Lord.
Huffed the motor somewhere in Atlanta.
Oh, Lord.
And, ran the thing out of oil or whatever it was. But imagine in 79 blowing up and a girl having to call back to Ohio, like, what do I do? And it's just, it got towed to a shop. The guy says, I've got an engine. So they just put another 350 in it, and she went and partied her face off and, came back home. And so it was a good entry level car.
First car. Yeah.
First car, slow.
Yeah.
You're not going to get in trouble.
I had a 74.
Yes. So.
Wouldn't pull a greasy string out of a cat.
And Dad always laughed too. He liked having two-door stuff, whether it's Jeeps or whatever it is, of like, I don't need you boys. I don't need 10 of you guys crammed into this thing, So.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my next project now. It's over at the airport. It's been hanging out there of just kind of going through fuel stuff again. And it's
getting it running.
It's like I'm lucky to have my first making bad engine decisions. Way too big a carburetor, way too big a camshaft, just all the things that when you were 17 was the way to go. And now you're like, God, I wish this thing would idle.
Well,
so.
But let me tell you what you've got now, Goose, that you didn't have then. The internet.
That's true.
You
It's
know,
true.
think about how much easier it is to get everything you
Yeah,
need.
I mean, you had to buy everything from like Eckler's.
Yeah, Eckler's.
You know,
out of a magazine.
yes.
Yeah.
Or J.C. Whitney.
Or go and dig through all the snakes and everything in junkyard.
Sure.
Yeah, well, or the
I mean, how many old cars have you laid under in a junkyard and took
Lord, yeah,
the starter off?
right, with a 2x4 holding it up. Right. Well, or the Bob Sharp Racing Cadillac. You get the Bob Sharp Racing Cadillac. My first Z car was a rusty piece of crud, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh, look, a 3-piece rear spoiler in front. Screw the floorboards, right? I'm buying the fiberglass Go Fast stuff.
Because I'm gonna keep it on the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had a shower radio hanging in it for a while because the
really?
radio was, you know, I mean, it's just so. Yes.
Oh,
You know.
man.
But you know how things change, and you know, and we talked about the car, you know, only being worth so much. You have to figure in inflation. You know, the reason that $3,500 car now is $120,000 is a lot of it is the value of the dollar.
Well, one of the things that we had talked about before was I've listened to you say you've been lucky to make good decisions. And I look at it from a lot of people that have not made those good decisions.
Mhm.
And I guess what I'm pushing, you know, obviously you got to survive and you got to feed everybody.
Right.
You got to keep things going. Sometimes you got to sell off something to kick off a business. You need a piece of equipment.
I'm doing that right now.
You know, so, but I've always been unlucky of, you know, some of the stuff that I've got rid of, and you go back and look now and you go, God almighty, I sold that thing for nothing, you know, and it's, and
but you needed that little,
you know, here's the thing that I would tell people of, let me guide you out of the shadows, is unless you can look back on all those things and say, I needed the money for this. If you said it's, you know, well, I bought my building, or, you know, it was my 7th divorce, or whatever your naming it was, you know, I look back at the stuff we sold off, you know, we were getting by, but like, I don't know where that money went. You know, it was just kind of living-ish, you know, or you end up with, you know, you got 8 things and the battery's dead in 7 of them. And it's like, well, I'm not even using this now. And
just go ahead and sell it.
Once you fall out of love with something and you just move on, you can't look back at it fondly and wish you would have stayed with it, because you didn't care about it when you had it.
Jokingly, I always say about those cars, and there's been a few, like Big Block Monte Carlo and some stuff like that, as I used up a bunch of stuff or forgot about a bunch of stuff and let it go. And what I was doing is contributing to the hobby to make the remaining ones more valuable. Right. And that's just my rationale with it.
Well, I had it in time too. We all have of, you know, you spend a Saturday getting some clunker going and you didn't go out and do anything with it, you know, and now next Saturday you got to work on some other pile. And then when you finally come back to the first one, the battery's dead again. And so
when I was a kid, that's what my dad wanted. Because he wanted me and my pals in the garage working on that, because none of us could drive. I got my first car when I was 14, right? So we're working on that, wrenching on the Beetle and all that stuff. But he knew where we were. Right? He knew that we were, you know, stealing his booze, drinking his beer. Sorry, Daddy. But he knew exactly where they were. And it came a point 40 years later, it's like, man, I want to do this. I want to get in and go.
Right.
You know, I want to be able to go get a barbecue and have a beer and
you know, Goose brought up a good little thing that gets in the way sometimes when you are collecting or you're having a project at your home that's at home that you're working on. Batteries are by far
batteries
the
and
most
bad gas.
aggravating, and I've always said many a time that anybody that wants an electric car has never spent much time around batteries, because batteries are aggravating as hell. So, but one thing I'll tell you, and they make this little thing that goes on the battery post, and I don't even know what they call it, but it's got a screw knob that disconnects that battery post from
it's
basically like a
battery
disconnect.
They make a blade one too. Just put
Make a blade,
I like
a
those
blade
crack
one or a
diamonds.
screw-on knob.
Yes.
The ones you want are the black ones that you put on the negative terminal. You want to disconnect the negative terminal. That's all you need to do. It'll shut the whole car down and save your battery. So every time you go out and get in the car, you just screw that negative terminal together and the thing.
The other nice thing
Is that why there's all these battery tenders?
Well, that's Well, you can't do it on the new cars
Yeah, you
because
can't.
because of the electronics.
They need to think.
They got to think. They need to have a little bit of charge in them.
So as a battery guy and a EV owner, right?
I used to say, my dad made the joke of, I don't care about the environment. I just need more gas for big block Corvettes. So if
All right,
you're
I love
doing
that. I
then
like
that's
that.
a version of it. But no, man, the thing's a spaceship. We went through all the different EV stuff, and for a daily driver, it's a ripper. You can still have fun.
Yeah, I keep seeing those ID Buzz, the Volkswagen ID bus,
Yeah.
out there, and I kind of want to drive one. There's something about that, and I know what it is. I know it's the poster child thing.
Yeah.
Because to have a hippie bus back when I was in high school in the '70s would have been cool as shit.
Oh yeah,
I can't, and that'd be a really cool replacement
piece.
for it.
I tell anybody starting it, regardless of how you feel about it, it's the infrastructure of the charging. So that's where it's hands above everything else. So I mean I like seeing, Hollyfest is doing, EV. They've got like their, LS Fest of EV stuff. I like to go see that all the motor swap stuff. And
Oh man, there's that 911 that the TRD guy around town put a Tesla stuff.
The
with,
Tesla stuff.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then there was a bitchin' Volkswagen, van, an old split window that was, and they were just driving around on the battery platform, the chassis with the front sheet metal on it. I mean, that build's going place, and it's going to be a huge wide body thing. That kind of stuff's really intriguing.
Yeah, I think it's different, but I'm sure that there's some guy that was smelting a carburetor out of an old candlestick or something, and is now pissed off about fuel injection. You can't be grumpy old Goose and not look forward to the future.
I like being a grumpy old Goose.
Well, the thing about it is, I think it's that rumble that's what turns me on.
Yeah,
And I think that rumble, that pound in the ground. The sound
for the Mach-E. Borla makes an external speaker that runs through your app, and you take off the rear valence and you put this weatherproof external speaker behind your Mach-E, and you can make it sound like any Mustang you want. Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Even because I put it in every episode, a Mustang 2 King Cobra.
Oh my God.
I don't know if it does that.
No.
But if it does, I'm buying you a Mach-E and that.
There is nothing that
I'll
you
tell you that
can
story at lunch.
possibly do to make a Mustang King Cobra a stud. You just can't do it. It can't be done. Guys, we're running out of time, so I just wanted to say thank you so much. Thank you, Goose.
No, I appreciate you having me on. I think there's a lot of people that have will be totally bored by this episode.
If they sit and just listen a little while, they'll learn something. That's all that matters.
Such is life.
Such is life. Exactly right. Again, please do not forget to like and subscribe, and we will be here and keep going just like we are. So whatever you do, just keep parking money.
See you soon.